Hey guys, my name is Joanna and I'm a designer at Venngage. In this tutorial, I will walk you through how to design a basic infographic using Venngage. I'll briefly go over all the different types of infographics you can create and talk about tips on how you can organize that outline you have and then transfer that into one of our templates. After that, I'll do a walkthrough on how to use our tool, so that's highlighting some of the main features as well as some design tips to help you create a successful infographic. I'll talk about things like white space, hierarchy, and color. You can go ahead and follow along if you would like during the walkthrough to get to know the tool a bit better. But before I introduce you to the tool, let's take a look at our templates page. Here we offer a lot of different templates. You can see under infographics here in the drop-down that we have statistical infographics, which focuses on visualization with graphs, tables, or numbers, and it can be easily used if you want to communicate metrics or tell a story with numbers. So if you have a topic that is data or news driven, or you want to create a report, then this infographic type is for you. We have informational infographics, which mainly conveys text-based information. I really like using these when I make instructional guides or when my outline is list-based. Here we have process infographics. And that's a type of infographic that shows a type of process flow like the name conveys. I use these when I have an outline with multiple steps. Comparison infographics, use these if you have two ideas you want to compare or contrast. One of our designers actually created this iPhone versus Android infographic, showing the comparison between the two products, which is really effective since you can see the features side by side. Timeline infographics are useful when you are telling a story in a chronological time period, like we did here with the history of Apple products and Google I/O product launches. You can also use them if you want to feature information in sequence. And geographical infographics display location-based information, and the most obvious way to visualize this is by using maps. And you can use things like colors and icons to highlight different locations. As you can see here, we have a vast amount of templates under each category. We have several free templates as well, but if you upgrade to premium or business, you can get all the premium templates for unlimited use. Before I actually walk you through in how to design an infographic using our tool, let's take a look at my outline here that I have. It's a sample outline we got from one of our clients, and you're probably starting out with something similar. Don't let the abundance of information overwhelm you though. As long as you determine the flow and organize yourself, you can create a successful design. So what I like to do personally is when I get a project outline is I like to clean up the text on the Google Doc or Word file itself. This is one iteration, but I cleaned it up as you can see in this version. I created hierarchy and sequence within the document itself. So I know the information flow right off the bat. Things may or may not change later on when I'm actually designing the infographic, but at least I set an organized foundation first to begin with. So looking at the outline of my copy, the big data infographic, I know I want to create a statistical infographic since there are comparisons and data tables included. I have a couple of Excel sheets here. Now we need to determine which template will best suit my information since some templates have different layouts. If you look at my outline, I have this main idea I want to highlight following the secondary and then the third idea down here. Since I know I have 3 sections, I'm going to go with a basic 1x3 column layout to start with. Like something like this one right here. Keep in mind that these templates, they can be easily changed. I like how this template here, let's open this up. I like how it has the main idea sitting at the top with the rest of the points composed underneath. So it's broken up into 3 sections. I can start customizing it now. I always like to start by renaming my template up here. I'm just gonna go right ahead and fill in my title. So now let's get you familiar with the interface. Here on the left, we have several different widgets with icons, charts, text, and you can drag those different widgets onto the canvas. I'll talk more about that later. On the top here, this is your toolbar. We'll be using a lot of this as we edit the infographic, and I'll talk more about what each tool does as we start designing. The top right menu here is for exporting and previewing and also changing page sizes. Let's get started. I'm going to turn on the Snap to Guide and Grid tool so I can align my work properly. You can turn it off whenever you would like. I find it really helpful when it's turned on. It's helpful when you need to align text to the right or to the left and just justify everything. You can see what I mean when I start moving things around, but let's jump right into editing the text. I'm going to double click this and enter my title. And then let's go ahead and fill in that secondary title, which is smaller than the main one. We usually read larger typography first, so that's why your title should be at least, if not more, twice the size. Now I'm just going to change the typeface. I'm going to go up here on the toolbar and look for Roboto Condensed because I quite like that one. And I'll change my subheader to News Cycle. Since this is a basic stat infographic, I think a max of 2 fonts is enough. You don't want it to be too cluttered with a lot of different styles of fonts going on. And now to change the color, click on color on the toolbar here and choose one that I like. You can either use the color wheel or just click on the swatches down below. I'm going to go for a gray one for now. And while we're here, I'm just going to save a couple of these swatches since I know I'll be using them a lot. I already have a color palette planned out. So just click on the little plus sign to add that in. And if you make a mistake, click on the delete button. You can just click the X button like right here. Alright, so back to the text. You can do a lot more with the text. You can change the styles, like bold them, italicize them. You can also change the sizing and the justification if you would like. But for now, I'm happy with how this looks. I moved this text by accident, as you just saw, but you can just undo that action by using the redo, undo buttons up here on the toolbar if you create any mistakes. I'm going to go ahead and change my background now. I'm going to go click the background panel right here on the left side, and maybe I want it to be an orange or a yellow. I think I'm going to go for a white for now, just to keep things simple. I feel like the colors will pop more that way with the color scheme that I have, but I can always go back and change it later if I want, so I'm just going to stick with a minimal white for now. Now that we have that out of the way, we can visualize the graph that we want. Let's go back and look at my outline. So the first main idea. This article basically aims to refute the fact that the buzzword big data is not widespread in social media anymore. So we have data on an Excel sheet that compares the buzzword big data with other popular tech buzzwords. So knowing that, I'm gonna go and choose a bar graph since one of its use is to compare things between different groups. And if you want to know more about choosing the right charts or graphs, we have an entire article that helps you with this process. I'm going to link to it right here or put an image right here so you can see where to head to. So the template here already has the placeholder graph where I would like to have mine. So all I have to do is double click to edit the graph. You can also go on the left panel and drag it in that way. You can see here that premium accounts have access to all the widgets, which includes the charts as well. So if you were on a free account, you could just upgrade and then you could have access to all of these things. So going into the chart settings, we can swap the chart types conveniently without having to delete the graph on the canvas, which is super easy. It makes my life so much easier. Alright, so we have our bar graph, and now I'm gonna go and just copy and paste over the information from the Excel sheet simply by hitting Command V onto this data table. I can also change the graph type whenever I want. So I'm gonna go in and quickly change the color on each data series to go with the color scheme that I have. Just click this swatch right here and my saved swatch. It's easy as that. And go onto the X and Y axis tab. I'm going to click on the little triangle to drop down more options and then change the font sizing on my graph to a 12-point size. So now I'm going to hit save and get back to the canvas. You'll notice how this graph is grouped to the bottom text right now. I can easily move this group without having to move each box separately, which is really helpful at times. So I also try to group things as I'm working. It's easier to visualize the different layouts that way. To ungroup, you can just simply click this button right here and everything will be separated. Let's continue to edit the text. So I'm just going to edit my subheader. Looking at this though, I want to add more visuals in it, so I'm going to remove the word Facebook and replace it with their logo. I think it's visually more interesting when you have icons and images in your infographic. If you have a word that can be expressed with an icon, you should definitely try to replace it because it's visually more interesting that way. To add an icon, just click on the icon panel on the left. You can browse through the category or just search up the icon you want. I'm just going to search it up. And I like this one right here, so I'm just going to drag it onto the canvas. I'm going to place it right here, resize it a tad bit by moving the corner of the bounding box. I'm going to change the color of this logo to a light gray just so it doesn't clash with the other colors I have going on. You don't want to have way too many colors in one infographic. While we have the icons opened up, let's add one more. Let's add a thumbs up icon. If you're going to be using certain icons a lot, you'll notice a heart on the toolbar right here. Give that a click and you'll see it under my favorites under icons. It's really helpful if you have a certain set that you gravitate towards a lot. I feel like there's a need for more impact on my title. Let's go back up here and add an icon to the title as well. I'm going to look for a cool icon under data. I like this one right here. Drag that in. And I'm going to add a circle frame to the icon. As well as a circle background behind it, so when I change the icon to white, it's going to show up over top the circular background. And you'll notice here that I'm moving the icons back by using the layering tools up here. I can move objects backwards or forwards. Let's adjust this to where I'd like. Remember, you can also use your keyboard arrows to move things in smaller increments if your mouse isn't doing the trick. So I'm just going to move that right there. All right, that looks great. I like the orange paired with the purple color scheme right now. But if you look at this graph, you'll notice that the big data, which is the main focus, it doesn't stand out right now. Let's highlight it with a color by double clicking on the graph, and I'll change just one of the bars to the orange. Click save. I'll also go ahead and add an icon beside the bar just to focus in on that aspect even more. I'll just use the same icon that I have up there. Just decrease the size a bit. I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out. Let's continue to the second part. And as you can see, it's a really easy tool to use. You don't even have to worry about saving your work. If you notice up here, it tells you when your work was last saved. For part 2, we are visualizing the top 3 phrase mentions within the last 24 hours, and we have 3 percentages to compare. I'm thinking of visualizing this using multiples of pie charts so you can see the differences side by side. I'm going to go ahead and click this group section and click delete. You can also hit delete on your keyboard. Then going under charts, I'm going to drag in a pie chart and double click it to edit, just similar to how we did the bar graph. And for the pie chart, I'm going to just fill in the data. I'm going to go into settings and create a donut shape onto the pie chart. As you can see, it changed. I'm just going to hit save. And I want to add some text over this chart, so I'm going to drag in a text widget going on the left panel and dragging it in and just editing it. Now once I have everything placed where I like, I'm going to click on all the objects and then click on the copy button on the toolbar, which will create a duplicate. And you can see that it's automatically grouped, which is really helpful. I can then drag that onto the next space and then customize that with the rest of the information. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. You'll notice how these lines right here are locked. That's so it doesn't move around by mistake when you're working. You can also unlock these by clicking on the lock button up here, which will allow you to move the object once again. But I'd leave it locked because I know that I'm not going to be moving that around. So going back to this outline, to finish off the second part, I want to illustrate this fraction right here, the 4 out of 5. And I'm going to use a pictogram for this. So I'm going to look up the same thumbs up icon I used under pictograms and then drag that in. I'm going to change the row to 1 and the column to 5. And I'm also going to change the fill so it only highlights 4 out of 5. Now you have a pictogram. I'm just going to place this right under here. So finally, for the last section, I was provided an image to include in the infographic. We actually need a longer page size to fit the information in, so let's go under settings on the top right, and I'll use the custom page size and increase the height by another 1000 pixels. So even though this started off as a template, there is a lot of room to customize it. I'm now going to copy an existing title I have from my canvas, so I don't have to mess around with the sizes and fonts, and then I'll just paste in my third subtitle. And I'll align it on the side there. And you can see how it snaps right in because of this snap to guide tool right here. You can see that it justifies nicely. Now we can upload the image. Click on uploads, then the upload image button right here, and make sure it's under 2 megabytes because we do have a sizing limit. And there's our image right there. It's beautiful. I'm just going to go ahead and drag that into the canvas. Now we need to crop out this 4th buzzword since it isn't relevant in this section. So to crop an image, click on the image and then click the crop button right here. And you can see it's in the crop mode now. And you can drag the edges like this. And once you're happy with the crop, click the check mark. And transforming this image a bit to make it fit better. You can also zoom in and zoom out to view your canvas closer or further. Guys, so we're almost done here. I'm going to add in the closing text at the end. Let's make this part shine. I really recommend you to start off strong with a strong title, but also end effectively as well. And we can do this by playing around with the icons and the sizings of the text. So let's just copy the text once again and then paste the conclusion in. I'm going to make this a lot bigger. I think 40 points looks good. Now to make this more interesting, I'm going to copy the same icon I used at the top and paste it at the bottom as well. It adds a graphic element to the end, tying it in with the rest of the infographic. And you'll notice how there is enough white space around the text, around the icons and the margins of the infographic. So it's much easier to read things with white space around it because it gives the eyes room to move around rather than having a chaotic infographic. Now that we're almost done, let's just preview this to see how everything came together. Looking at this, I'm gonna go and add a minor design element. Since there's a lot of white, I'm just going to add a subtle border around the infographic just to tie everything in together. Just gonna drag this square outline in, change the color to an orange, and drag that over. And then I'm going to move that border to the back just so it doesn't get in the way. And perhaps I'm even going to lock it. Okay, that looks good. I'm really happy with how this turned out. Finishing touches, I'm going to group some of the elements together just so when I come back and edit this, it's easier for me to move things around in case I do want to move things around. So I'm going to group the text together. Now to download, just click on the download button on the top right corner and you can see all the different options you have. You have the high res, you have the regular versions, the PDF. And to publish it online, just click on publish and you can grab the link to your work or even embed the code. You can also share the infographics via social platforms such as Pinterest or Twitter. In case you're wondering, you can also make a copy of your infographic by clicking on Settings and click on Make a Copy to duplicate your infographic so you always have the original. You can also copy and paste from one infographic to another. So let's say you change some information on this one and you want to transfer it onto another infographic. You can just copy this, hitting Command C, and go to your infographics page up here. Find the infographic you would like to place your work on, and then Command V to paste. Alright guys, I hope this tutorial was helpful for you in some way. Remember, you can start by using the templates labeled beginner to get the hang of the tool first before moving on to more advanced templates. If you need any more help or have any questions, just click on the Help Center, which is located on the bottom right here, and type in your questions. Alright guys, I'll talk to you later.